Hello again. In the previous video, we discussed how in the nested canvas of handle transaction, the user could basically set all of the basic nodes up to create some rule logic and structure. In this video, I will be showing you how the function nodes of the nested canvas works alongside the variables. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the canvas so that um, previously what the base template that you were seeing in the nested canvas, the very complicated one with all of the loop nodes and everything, I'm going to reset it to a much more simpler template. Okay, so now that I have reset it, I'm going to open up the handle transaction. And as you can see, now this is a very short base template. And this is to create a very simple rule instead of the very complicated one that we just saw in the previous base template. So I'm just going to create the rule for our initial case in which we were trying to set a threshold on the amount in which we were basically trying to set up a rule which would get triggered if some certain amount is breached, right? So we have the initial conditions which check the bands and the exit conditions and like the insufficient history and the tolerance. So all of that is still fine. This is still applicable. We can leave that here. In the set variable node, what we have to do is now the variable name would be something like amount because we would be creating a check on the amount. So I've created this and now it's value. So right now what I'm trying to do is I am trying to set a variable of amount which this rule would be checking, right? So from this variables tab, you can see that we have local variables as well. This is the amount variable that I'm just creating right now. Um, yeah, so if I backspace it, you can see that it changes in the local variables in front of you. So I'm just going to keep it amount. And then for its value, so we need to have like a link to some original variable over here. So we have a group of variables on the nodes panel here. We have the global variables from the rule request. We have our rule config variables. We have our rule result variables as well. So from our rule request, which I showed before, has the metadata, the data cache, the network map, and the transaction payload. I'm going to go into the transaction object and I'm going to go further into the payload. And this is the amount here that I'm going to select because this is the payload that I selected for this rule. So I'm just going to drag this amount and drop it over here. So now this would be the value that we would check against any kind of payload that we receive, which looks like this. Um, yeah, so the rule knows exactly where to pick up the amount now. So this is us setting the variable and the variable has been set. Now what we'll do is just very quickly, I'm going to generate the code. And as you can see, the generate code gives an error, cannot find name, count of matching amounts, because this was previously the variable we were using, which was by default. However, in this code, in the determine outcome function, this was the variable being passed. So we need to change this here as well. Now that we've defined a new variable, we need to pass the same variable over here. So I'm going to close it. I'm going to click on the determine outcome and its first argument should be, and now this should all connect together. So from here, from our local variables, I'm going to drag and drop the amount variable here. So now this will always be the first parameter that the determine outcome function takes. And the rest would remain the same. So I'm just going to generate the code now. And now all the validations have been passed. There are no unreferenced strange variables going into any of the functions. We are using determine outcome, and here the amount variable is being input. Okay, so that is good enough for our rule. Um, and you can see now that you have a fair amount of idea about the variables here as well, like the metadata ones. If there is some rule which involves checking timestamps, we can create it from here. We can use these variables. Um, or we can use the rule config variables as well of bands and parameters. So all of the variables that we had seen so far from the rule request screen, if you recall, these can be used here. All right. So we have our complete rule. I'm just going to very quickly go through the functions that we have available apart from the ones that you can see on the screen. We have the determine outcome function, which, like I said, is basically a function which processes the rule itself. Um, I generate the code, all of this is in place, just fine. And then I also explained the type and interface one. So yeah, this is just a call function to that one. Okay. This is object operation, and you can just select what kind of operation you want to perform here. If you want to destructure an object or assign or set some keys, and then you can just import your object here. Um, you can drag and drop from here as well. So if you, for example, if you want to restructure a data cache object, you can just do it from this node. All right, and then you have the call functions. So first, the custom function that you defined on the main screen, on the main canvas, you can call it over here. So this would basically just contain a simple function call where you can select the function that you had defined in the main canvas. Then you have your string function, which basically would contain all of the operations that you can perform on a string. This is a limited list, of course, but yeah, more operations can be added to this in the upcoming implementations. And then you must drag and drop a string here. So, and then you just basically define what kind of result variable you want it in. So that is the string function node. And then similarly, we have the math function, in which we have the math operations. These are the very basic ones, which if at any point in the rule you need any of these math functions, you can use it from this node. Right, then we have the call for standard deviation and Haber sign distance, which we saw in the previous video. And here you would just be passing down the arguments for these functions that we defined in the main canvas. Same goes for Haber sign distance. And these are the array operations, which have the basic operations that you can perform on an array of your choice. And again, you can drag and drop the array from the variable section. All right, then we have the structure separately as well. So if you want to destructure an object with certain identifiers, you can drag and drop it from the variable and then define your keys over here. So yeah, this is pretty much it for your nested canvas. And as you can see, we have very easily created a simple rule. What I'm going to do here now is I am just going to save this, and I'm going to proceed to the next step. Yeah, so now you can see that the message has changed. It says rule validated successfully, and now I'm just going to click on next, which would take me to the generate test cases screen. And now on the test case builder, we would of course be discussing this in the next video. This would hopefully also be a two-parter in which we would discuss the function and the basic nodes. So stay tuned for that, and thank you.